I've just finished building this UNNO Mith, but before I ride it properly, I want the suspension set up exactly how it should be from the factory. So, the fork's going in for a full service, and the travel changed to 170mm, which is the right amount for the bike, and I'm going to fit a new shock with the exact tune that UNNO spec for the bike. Getting this stuff right makes all the difference to how a bike rides, and today is about getting the Mith properly dialed before it hits the trails. So I'm visiting Fox's HQ in the UK to get it all completely sorted.
So my goal is to get it how it should be from when you buy it from UNNO. So they said, make sure you get this tune.
Okay.
What is a tune? What does it do?
So the tune is referring to the shims within the shock. You can effectively change the damping levels, and it's effectively the step before you start with your external adjustments. So it effectively sets the ballpark for where you're going to be able to make those adjustments from. It is factored into the design of the bike, the kinematics, but also the rider. So most bikes will have a specific suggested tune for the shock that comes off the shelf, and we can then either tune that to a rider's preference based off of that, or for a lot of riders that is effectively the optimum tune.
So the first thing we get started on is changing the 180 fork back down to 170, which is what the UNNO Mith is spec'd to come with.
How much of this can be done by end user and how much of it's like has to be done by a trained professional?
Technically all of it can be done at home. A lot of it is down to having the right tooling and basically following the service manual. It does definitely require you to be quite confident. If you're happy sort of working on your bike and doing brake bleeds, that sort of thing, I would say that's a sort of a minimum before you start.
And you've got a well nice clean workshop in here.
That is a big factor.
Yeah.
Definitely with suspension, you want everything to be clean. Obviously, it's not clean when it's out on the trails, but that's on the outside. Once it gets inside, it becomes a big problem. So that's why we've got parts washer. We keep everything as clean as possible, just to make sure there's zero chance of anything getting in there. Anything that's grimy, fork lower is a good example. You know, with some products, if it's like an air can, you can clean it out with sort of cloth and some disc brake cleaner, isopropyl alcohol. With a fork, you've got all the sort of webbing in the arch, all the dropout area can all get full of mud. So run it through the parts washer, make sure none of that can get into the fork, and then we'll give it a proper clean out. We rinse the lowers through water just to get rid of any traces of the parts washer fluid, because leaving that on there isn't great. And then we just rinse it out with isopropyl alcohol, make sure it's all dry and good to go. So recommendations are every 125 hours of riding or a year, whichever comes first. In the UK, that can be a little bit long, depending on the sort of the weather you're riding in. If you're sort of a fair weather rider, like to just get out on the weekends every now and then it can be a case of that's actually spot on. Whereas if you are going out sort of less often, but in wetter conditions, actually sometimes you want to shorten those intervals. Uplift days, things like that, where you know you've booked the date, it's heavy rain, but you want to get out anyway, then actually probably worth getting it serviced a bit more often. The other thing I would say is don't wait until there's a problem. A bit like with your car, you don't wait until the engine stops to go and get it serviced. Get it done regularly, and actually it might save you money in the long run.
It's always interesting to see inside, because you turn a dial and you kind of think you know what might be happening. It's nice to see what is actually happening when you see it inside.
Yeah, well, once we get further into it, we can show you what each element of the assembly is doing and how that's sort of impacting the riding feel that you're getting. So that's your low-speed rebound needle. So when you're adjusting low-speed rebound, this needle is closing off the oil flow that can avoid this shim stack. So that's why it only happens at lower speeds. When it's at quicker speeds, any fluid that can't get through here is then forced through the shim stack. This has all so far been in the rebound assembly and the mid-valve. So we're going to pop this back together before we move on to the compression. You can take it all apart at the same time. It's just more parts on the bench, more things to potentially drop, lose, etc. So taking it one step at a time, we'll get this all back together, and then we'll move on to the compression assembly.
What's the torque required to do this up?
This is 0.22 Newton meters.
I definitely don't have one. I thought 5 Newton meters was low.
Yeah, it gets a little bit more specific than that when you get into some of the dampers. All back together, dampers had a full rebuild, popped the new air spring in, cleaned out the lower legs, got some fresh lube in there, new wiper seals. So yeah, all good to go. We'll just finish off getting the compression settings in and get it back on the bike.
When you were doing it, we actually spoke about cost, and you said it was, what was the price again?
So on a full fork service, they are $129 recommended retail, but we do have a full list of the prices on the website as well, if you want to check for your specific model, fork, shock or seat post.
And I didn't think that was too bad with the amount of intricacy, the amount of tools and the amount of time and different oil weights and the amount of kind of labour that goes into it. It's not just a quick, simple oil change. There was quite a lot of stuff happening there.
Yeah, it's quite comprehensive. I say it is a full service, so that's getting a full strip down check over. Obviously, 129 doesn't include any sort of additional parts that may or may not be required, but if we get into it and there are parts that need a bit of love or replacement, then we'll just pop you an email or give you a call and give you a quote.
Next up, we've got the X2 shock that needs a complete retune to match UNNO's factory specification.
So that is where the travel spacers live. So you can change the stroke, just reduce it down. So this sort of orange plastic piece is the travel spacer. This is just the bottom out plate. So that gives the bottom out bumper just in here something to land on. Nice smooth flat surface. Main piston, and then you've got your rebound shim stack under here with the VVC, and then just under here that is your compression shim stack just on the underside of the piston there. Compression on here is quite firm in comparison to the UNNO recommended tune, so we're going to definitely change that out, and then got to just readjust the VVC to suit once that's taken out. Compression stack that is going to be going into the shock, so much lighter than what's already sort of pre-installed. That is your compression stack there. Sits just up against the piston.
So essentially this stack is allowing more oil flow.
Correct, yeah.
Higher volume of oil.
So it will open more easily.
Wow.
Immediately.
Yeah, I can even tell that's a massive difference.
Yeah, a lot more flexible. It's going to move out of the way of the oil a lot more easily. So this is part of your compression assembly. So when you're compressing the shock, the oil has to go through here as well as the main piston assembly. So the two stacks work together to give you the compression damping. So we've built the shock dry. What we're going to do now, the machine is first going to pull a vacuum to pull out as much air as possible that's in there. Then it's going to fill it with oil. We'll cycle the shock a few times, try and push out as many bubbles as possible. Then it'll pull another vacuum to get what's left out of the shock, and then it will fill it back up. So it's just the best way for us to get a build on the shock that's got no air in or the lowest amount possible.
So what have we done? We've fully serviced the fork, and what kind of condition was it in? It's like 18 months old.
Wasn't too bad actually.
Right.
Wasn't too bad. I think the benefit of you having other bikes to ride and put miles on has helped out. But yeah, all good. Yeah, seal and oil change. Change the travel down to 170 to match what the bike is sort of designed around. So yeah, that should be good to go for another year or sooner, depending on how many miles you're putting on this one. And then we dived into the shock as well, made some tune changes, and yeah, lightened up the compression and the base valve. So that is now in line with what UNNO recommend.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time and effort, and yeah, spending some time on it, and I'll let you know how it rides. I'm looking forward to taking it out and testing it.
No problem at all, happy to help.
Cheers, mate. Nice one.